Hi, everybody. So I want to say welcome to Anya. Anya and I are doing our show,
Hello.
and we want to talk about something a little more fun because I feel like we're all a little drug out from all the energies that are bubbling right now. There's a lot of stuff coming to the surface for people. They're dealing with things they never thought were really in there, probably like within them that they still needed to deal with. And also the outside is reflecting the inside. The outside is getting quite crazy right now.
Mhm.
So we want to talk about kind of bridging the gap between what we're doing now and where we're going so that it doesn't seem so big,
Yeah.
you know? I think that's really important because basically what we're doing is we're slowly elevating and we're getting a big kick in the butt right now, honestly, but we're elevating in a spiral that's going up and up. And it's not always easy. Like sometimes you just want to sleep or you're kind of dragging around all day. And not that you necessarily feel bad, but you just don't feel peppy.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So, and you're moved now. So,
Look, more or less everything's in, but like you say, that energy's been very relevant. When you were saying that, I was thinking about me the past few days, attempting to move my stuff and just standing in the room looking at it like, okay. There's just not much energy or like I'm a very productive, everybody that knows me, I'm so hyperactive and I'm always on the go and I barely sit down. But lately I've really struggled kind of keeping up that energy and keeping up that flow of like hyperactivity and not even hyper, but like, productivity, and getting everything done. I've been having a
mhm,
lot of ideas for the business and been doing a lot on social media. I find that manageable. But physically doing things I've found quite difficult. Other than being in nature, I enjoy doing that, but I've really struggled like organizing and prepping and like you say moving in. Like I've just for a couple of days I just had everything I own in the living room just like piled up, just waiting for the right time to, because I wanted to declutter it as well. So that's why it's not all going into where it belongs, because I wanted to go through it and get rid of everything that's not vibrationally aligned to me anymore. And even stuff that like I like some of these items, it just doesn't feel like me anymore. So yeah, I've had
mhm,
to kind of really give an energy spurt. I got a little bit of energy today, but like you said, then I had to go ahead and have a nap afterwards. So I'm still kind of finding that balance between having enough energy to kind of get stuff done and be productive. And yeah, like you said, feel happy and joyful. Like it sometimes I challenge myself and I give myself a lot of pressure for not feeling joyful. There's a lot of things I have to be grateful for. I have a beautiful baby, a beautiful life, a beautiful home, beautiful family and support system, partner, and a wonderful life, And, the fact we have a roof over his head is something to be grateful for. The fact we have a healthy body is something to be grateful for. And I'm aware of all these things, but sometimes I really struggle to feel that natural happiness and joy, and then I give myself shit for not feeling that, because I'm like, oh, I really should be feeling happy. I really should be feeling more joyful. Like I know there's all these beautiful things that I should be feeling happier for. But sometimes I have to like work up that energy to kind of feel that joy and remind myself of them things to bring that joy in. And I just kind of wanted to share that because I know that it's hard sometimes and I'm always trying to be relatable to people. So no matter where you are on your spiritual journey, sometimes we can struggle with feeling that joyful. It's not all love and light all the time. It's not all fairies and angels and rainbows. Like it can sometimes feel not even challenging, like you say, not even really bad. It just feels a little bit Groundhog Day and a little bit numb, almost like not bad,
yeah.
not good, not kind of just like just dull. And like I said, I step into gratitude a lot to change that frequency. I just always step into gratitude, and that brings my heart frequency back up into joy. But it's
Mhm.
sometimes I have to try to do that, which is not it's not a natural vibration, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we're working so hard in the astral plane. I know that's what's going on with me. I come back and I'm just like, oh, you
Yeah.
know, and you're trying to get yourself up and you realize all these things that have been going on. and it kind of is exhausting and you feel kind of hollowed out. So that's been going on, but the energies are pushing, pushing, pushing right now too. And I want to talk about some of the things that we can do as we're kind of transitioning,
Yep.
because we seem like we're transitioning right now.
Mhm.
But some of the fun things you can do if you don't have energy. So for one thing, B vitamins are really important right now.
Yep.
Your adrenals, I know, like in most of the circles, the adrenals are tired for people. So if you're feeling tired, that's most likely adrenal. So if I don't take the B vitamin in the morning, I don't feel that great. So, and I take a fermented one. So I'll put that below, but it really, like, I can feel the difference. And I'm doing a lot of stuff, but that's one of the things that just right now seems to be really important. But we want to talk about how we have the astral plane,
Yep.
and that's where we're going at night, and whether you remember it or not.
Mhm.
And then we have the earth, the earth school. So you've got this place where you're playing out all this stuff and you're
Yeah.
trying to let go of all the programming, and trying to change things. We're doing something huge right now.
Yeah.
We're changing society and we're changing this game completely. So this game is going from being a polarized battleground to a beautiful, more calm place of existence and creativity.
Mhm.
So being creative is really good.
Is definitely.
Um, but I wrote some stuff down that you guys might want to look at. And Anya actually had a great movie to go watch. So let's oh, I don't see it. Hang on. We're gonna go to that preview.
Yeah,
So
I've
it's
not watched it
called
in a while.
Inception,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Here we go. Oh, I gotta make sure I share the sound. I forget that most times. Go.
You never really remember the beginning of a dream, do you? You always wind up right in the middle of what's going on. Dreams feel real while we're in them. It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange.
You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
It's the most resilient parasite. An idea. A simple little idea that would change everything. Give him the kick! Come back to reality. I have it under control. I'd hate to see you out of control. I'm ready.
Inception.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that movie. Like, what do you think it means? Is it the
Well,
astral plane or what is it?
I must say I haven't watched it for years, but when we was talking about it, that's the first one that came up because it was such a prominent movie for me. I must have been, God, I must have been about 15, 16 when I watched it, me and Brad years ago. But I remember it even then, before knowing all the things I know now, having such a profound effect on me. And I remember thinking like, wow, why aren't people talking about this film? Why aren't people more like, why is this not more of a conversation bringer? Because it was such a deep thing for me. And I remember being so intrigued by there's different layers to the dream. So obviously don't quote me by it because it was a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago when I've watched it. But the things I took from it were the different layers to the dream state. And also like the soul groups that we're with, because obviously when they're going through their missions, they're consciously aware of the different layers of dream state. As you've seen, you know, he's explaining that, you know, nothing is real around it. It feels real, but it's just the perception of what is real in the dream state. It feels real at the time. But then that woman that he's with, obviously I won't ruin the full story, but she's there through different like timelines, different lifetimes, and she doesn't have that same remembrance as him. I don't think at the beginning anyway. So the point is, there's still that connection with the soul groups throughout all the different layers. There's still the remembrance between those souls, and there's still the connection, and it's all to do with kind of them breaking through the different layers and kind of getting to, they're more like a oneness, more like a wholeness with themselves. And I think it's a really good representation of the different timelines, the different layers to it, the different perceptions of reality, and then like the way that manifests in the human brain, because it really is all just a perception of what we create in our human brain. And obviously we're all co-creating that reality together, because I always used to think, well, if I'm creating it, why did I create that, for example, specific nuance, or that specific thing over there, or, you know, that thing playing out with so and so? And it's because obviously we're in a co-created reality. So our creations are then manifesting with other people's creations of reality, which then creates one coexisting reality around us. So other people's perceptions of their reality, I suppose, do have a somewhat a reflection of your own if you share the same kind of vibrational timeline with them. So that's kind of deep. But if you are sharing the same energy, the same frequency, repetitively seeing these people, then you're kind of sharing in your vibrational timeline energy. And what they are co-creating in their reality will kind of overlap into your reality too. So I think that's why it's aware, like good to be aware who you're around and what they're kind of consciously creating, and kind of obviously if something's not feeling right with you, you'll pick it up and you'll notice if they're in fear and things like that. That probably won't sit right in with you if that's not where you're at. So I definitely think it's important to be recognizing like the perception of your reality, and be with people around you share that similar or same perception of your reality as well. And if not, how can you be being around more people that have the same vision, so that you can create more of a co-created reality that's more attuned to your vibration.
Exactly. Yeah. They say the 5 people you spend time with is where you're going to end up, kind of, you know. So you do want to make sure that if you absolutely love them, you know, and maybe they're not doing so great in certain areas, if they're working through it, great, then that's great. If they refuse to work through it, then it might be time to take a little time away.
Definitely. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we were just talking about this a minute ago, and you know, I know a couple of people that unfortunately have had to be faced with quite severe confrontation at the moment, even down to like physical attacks by their own family members and stuff, to actually have to look at the person that they're dealing with and to question, like, I want this person, this energy in my life, and do I want to maintain this relationship? Do I like who I am around this person? I think that's a very important question that they had to ask themselves, my friend, because you know, it's the person we become around certain people, because we go into our fight or flight responses, we go into our defenses, that then becomes a product of us. So the more we're around them, the more we become the person that we don't like, you know, in self. So yeah, it's being brought up now, like you say, we are in transitions. And I've got another thing about that just slightly, but we are in the transition right now in terms of where are we going? Who are we? Who do we want to become? Who do we have around us as we're going to become that? How can we get there? And kind of what obstacles are in the way for us getting to where we want to be, and how can we work through them? And is that other people, are they an obstacle for us achieving that created reality? Are they kind of always pulling you down, always criticizing, always in fear, always making you feel like you have to defend and be on guard? You know, that energy is not productive and conducive for growth and expansion. You know, it's what we're going to be doing. But also just on the transition thing, it's obviously for me, I've just gone through the wild pregnancy and free birth, and I did a lot on the different stages of birth and different stages of labor, and transition is a massive part of going into your free birth, because it's the part of going through early labor, and where you're kind of more consciously connected to your body and where you're more present, and then you kind of journey inwards into the Akashic realm and you go retrieve that little baby soul. And in that transitional period, it's kind of where a lot of women have the most resistance. I actually didn't struggle, but I've had to do it a lot before in my hospital ordeal, so I've kind of had practice with that. But a lot of women in this time struggle and they go into panic mode and they kind of freak out and they say, I can't do it, and I'm not capable. And there's this kind of whole meltdown mode before they then literally just about to birth the baby. So I think that's really relevant because the transitional period is just before birth. And I think that's very relevant to what we're going through right now, is that transitional period where a lot of us that are in fear resist. So panic and we feel, oh, we've got to stay with what we know, we've got to stay with the safety. But it's not true. The best thing you can do is surrender to the process. Know that just as your body is built to birth, we are ready to go through this ascension. So if we just allow the body to go through birth and just surrender to that process, the body will expand and birth the baby. It's the same thing in terms of what we're going through right now. If we just surrender and we kind of sit back a little bit and allow ourselves to go through this process, we will be rebirthed into the ascension process that we need to go through. And as easy as it sounds, it really is that easy. It's stop resisting it and stop fighting it and go more with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're manifesting something, when you're asking, for something to be showing up in your life, whether it's a relationship or, abundance or whatever, you get something really big that is usually in the way that you have to either deal with or say, that's not my reality anymore.
Yeah.
Before you really get to the good stuff, because the universe wants to make sure that you're truly ready and you're actually done with the lesson that you've been meandering with for so long. A lot of us, we have held on to those lessons for so long. And now it's like we're moving through lessons so quickly and disengaging old stuff so fast that it's kind of mind-boggling for the body and the inner child. They're like, wow, we're really moving through stuff now. So yeah, but I wanted to mention some of these shows. The Last Mimsy was a really good one. If you haven't seen it yet, I would definitely see it. But there are some that are showing you like the magic that we're capable of. And they put a lot of stuff in cartoon form or comics. So DC movies, Marvel movies, The Dark Crystal was brilliant for this time. And then some of the stuff that's happened, the polarity of the past. Anya brought up the vampires. And because that's basically what the elites were doing, is being vampires. And then Avatar, which I feel like has to do with some of the things that happened not on Earth, but it's being told here. And then books are channeled too. Like my children's book that I wrote, that was definitely like it came in. Definitely. I didn't create, you don't just create stuff, it comes in. That's your connection to the astral plane. It's your connection to the field.
There's not much like do now channel, sorry. Like a lot of the things, anything I kind of do, most of it is channeled. Like the other day I made a TikTok video and it was only about 4 minutes long, but it deleted itself, as it does sometimes. It really annoys me when it does that, but it deleted itself. And when I went to go do it again, I had no idea what I'd said because it's completely channeled. So I was sat there like, oh, well, I'll have to do it a different day. I'll have to do a different video later on, because you get that inspiration, whether it's a song that I wrote, whether it's one of my ebooks, like even the one I wrote after the workbook after having the baby. Everything was channeled in via my own experiences and by the information I was getting, which is why for me it's important to either at least write notes or write a sketch, like a plan about what you're getting at that time, because a lot of this, I've had ideas before that have come in at that time and I've not necessarily put them where I wanted to, and then that spark of inspiration has gone. So I think it's really important to kind of, when you get that message channeled in, just have a little notepad, have a journal, or on your phone, just write down. I always do it with music, with songs, poems, books, products, like anything that I have to kind of like coming in, or courses, stuff like that. I always write down straight away, because you might expand on it, you might build on it, but at least then you've got the seed that you've got planted there. You can kind of let that water and let that grow then. And, you know, sometimes mine have been there years before they've become a real thing, but it's just about creating space for it. Like you say, channeling is something we're all capable of doing, and we're all actually doing it every single day. We just don't realize it. And it's just about picking what things we want to channel, and where we want to direct that energy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And also when you're manifesting, you're also you're putting your beacon out. So the other day I worked on the learning center that I want to create. So I've got an online thing going on, but the in-person thing is for the future, and that's for humanity. And so I was concentrating on that and manifesting it and writing things down. And I feel like it's a great time to do that if you haven't before. And whether it's about your own life and what you want to do, or it's about a project or whatever, getting it on paper, not in the computer, but on paper, is really important, because it's actually energetically coming out of you and being written. So you're actually
Exactly,
creating
yeah.
it as you go. Yep.
Yep. I love that. I
Mhm.
can never write a song on my notepad on my phone, because it doesn't feel like it makes sense or like it flows. I always have to have a notepad and write down, because then as you're looking at it, as you're reading it aloud, as you're kind of absorbing in it, you can figure out, oh, that doesn't sound right, that don't feel right. Whereas when you're writing it on like a text or a note form, you don't get the same resonance, the same vibrational frequency to it. So I definitely think that some things are right on my notes, especially when I'm out and about. You know, a lot of like I said, my ideas that come to me when I'm out and about, I write them down. But then later on, I'll make a plan, I'll make a project in my workbook, and kind of spout off some ideas in there, because it's really good to sit, like you say, to actually physically create it into the realm, into the world.
Mhm. It is so important.
Nice.
So I want to mention a few books that people have written, I think, that will really help understand things that are going on.
Yep.
So the Ringing Cedars series is really good, and that came out of Russia. The Law of One, if you can read the first book, that's really going to help you understand some of the things that have gone on. If you want to understand some of the things that, not in exactly the same way, but some of the magic that's coming or that has already happened, Harper Hall of Pern is really good, by Anne McCaffrey. The Wizard of Earth Sea is also a very good series. And there's so many series on Netflix right now that are giving you all this information. So like, I don't do it now, but I used to write stuff down. I used to take my notebook and watch some of the stuff. And that
Yeah.
it works. It helps you figure out like some of the things that are missing, like med beds are in there, replicators, magic. I don't know. What have you been seeing lately, Anya?
So a couple of things, a couple of good books are the Dolores Cannon books. I always recommend Dolores Cannon, because I think she's amazing. Her whole series are amazing. But there's the Jesus and the Essene ones, which is quite good to kind of deep break down religion and stuff, if that's something you're struggling with. And the Three Waves of Volunteers, I like that one as well. Then there's loads of series on Netflix, like you say. The OA is literally OA, like the letters. That's really good. And I watched it years ago. A lot of these things I watched years ago, like sometimes 10, 15 years, 10 years ago. A lot of them, me and Brad, we watched a lot of them, and a lot of them are coming up on Netflix now from years ago as well, which is really cool. There's one called the 4400 as well, which is about loads of people that like went missing. and then came back all on one day. So that was like a bit of a timeline glitch, and they was all from different times, and they just like had to reintegrate into the families, which was a really cool concept. I like that one. And then there's like I think it's called The Travelers, and that's all about, I love anything to do with time travel and anything to do with all sci-fi stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I watch fairies and like witches and angels. I love all sorts of stuff like that. But the OA is all about like symbols and creating energy and frequency with symbols, and they actually create a portal to a higher dimension with symbols. And there was like kidnapped in this place, and all of them worked together to create this like symbol to create freedom, which is, it's a really cool series, and then it follows on. And that's on Netflix. I think it was on Netflix, so it should still
Yeah,
be
I
there.
think
But
it is still.
some really stuff
Yeah.
like you said, and just, you know, all different, like I said earlier, I was talking to Honey and I was saying I'm intuitively led. So I'll see a thing and I'll be like, oh, that looks cool, I'll watch that. And then that topic, that theme, that concept is then relevant so much a couple of days later or a couple of weeks later, even sometimes years later. But like even that film, the Inception film years ago, you know, I didn't know it'd be relevant for this video years ago. I watched it as a 15-year-old, but the importance it had on me meant that had an impact on my subconscious and my conscious mind. So if you're intuitively led to watch stuff, no matter what it is, like Honey says, I was watching The Vampire Diaries last year and I had no idea why, but then it was all to do with like crystals holding energy and portals on the earth, and like, you know, it was so, and energy vampires, which was ironic, like it was so relevant to what was going on, and ancient magic and blah blah blah. So I think sometimes just trust your intuition and go where you're kind of drawn. You know, don't, I think there's a big stigma in the whole spiritual community, which I don't really like to attach myself to, because I like to keep it real. As me and Honey were saying, I'm very much a human. I know a lot. I work with the astral realm. I do all this woo-woo stuff, but I like to live a human experience too. I like to be a human being. You know, I love food. I love to be outside in nature. I love dancing. I like being with people. And I like watching telly, ironically. You know, I pick my own stuff I watch, but I think there's nothing better than getting in bed on a night and putting on a nice, good series and just feeling really chill and cozy. Like, for me, that's a nice, I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think you can choose what you want to watch, and you can choose what vibration you are opening yourself up to. And there's some great things out there that you can learn and expand your knowledge and expand your wisdom from just by being a part of.
Yeah. Well, and most of the frequency has been kind of negated, like it's been fixed in most of the shows. Now, that one show with Julia Roberts, I cannot remember the name of, but I was asked to watch it. Huh?
Yeah, that film. The film.
Yeah, the film. I was asked to
I
watch
think
it over and over again, and it just didn't feel right, so I never watched it. And then they used that film to disclose the frequency, to disclose
yeah.
bad frequency, because it was in that film.
Yeah, it was very post-apocalyptic. I didn't watch it, but I watched a couple of trailers on it, and
Yeah, I
I was
watched the
listening
trailer.
I listened to something on the radio about that film. No, it wasn't the radio, it was on a Rumble. I'd watched it somewhere alternative media, and they were saying that, no, I think it actually was mainstream. I think it was on the radio, which is why I was confused. But anyway, it said that the directors on it were, I think I'm allowed to say their name, Michelle and
Yeah, we're gonna put this on Rumble.
yeah, fine. Well, Michelle and Barack Obama, they was the directors of the film, co-directors with the original director, and the actual director himself said that the ideas that Barack Obama was coming up with for the film were, the words he used were disturbing and terrifying. Obviously, the film's about a post-apocalyptic society, and I think for a normal director in Hollywood that's clearly not necessarily uninfiltrated, if he's working with people like that, to disclose such a statement to the mainstream media saying that the ideas that they were coming up with were absolutely disturbing and terrifying, kind of gives perspective to this kind of ideology that's being built around people like him and people like that kind of, you know, image, in terms of showing the real things behind there. If someone has the capability to even create them ideas, whether it's in a fake film or not, it kind of shows you the capacity of where that mind's capable of going. You know, I'm sure we're all capable of some weird dark thoughts, but I think when someone's involved and heavily invested in something so much like that, and creating such disturbing ideas of post-apocalyptic society. Like you say, it was something that they was trying to manifest and create fear in people's consciousness so that people would consciously co-create that. But I think a lot of people are aware of that now, and yeah, it created some fear in some people, but I also think it spurred people on to realize. I think it had an opposite effect. I think people thought, shit, I don't trust the government. I better get my own independence here, and I better get my own food supply and kind of learn my own independence. So I think it actually maybe had a contradictory effect of what they
I think that
intended.
was the actual goal. I
Yeah,
think it
well,
was to out the Obamas, because I don't think they own Netflix anymore.
Mm.
I don't think Amazon is owned by, Bezos. I don't think any of those people even exist anymore.
no,
So
I mean,
this is all movie to continue. Like, this is for the lower parallels, not the lowest, because I feel like they've split off, but the lower parallels that are still ascending, this is part of their like jolt,
yeah.
like wake up.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
definitely agree with that because my dad's down there, and he won't mind me saying I'd turn to his face. So it's not an insult, but he struggles with fear. That's one thing he does struggle with, and I tell him this all the time, And he watched that film, and he was the one that was like, "Oh, I need to prep up, I need to stock up, I need to get this and that," and I was like, "Well, you don't, but I understand why you think that, and I think it's a good thing that you're not just aimlessly relying on some other fabricated being to provide
mhm.
your future." In terms of like food from the supermarket and everything now, like he's changed his diet and he's changed like the tablets he takes and blah blah blah. So I think it did have an effect on people in them lower timelines that did have fear, but I think that fear has then been transmuted in a lot of people into action.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even the Super Bowl stuff was so, like, it was so blatant, the
Yeah,
information. There's so many people like that I never have seen before, and they have tons and tons of followers, and they're outing, what happened there. But they still, according to them, believe that the elites are still in charge.
yeah, I know a lot of people
So
that think
there's a
that.
whole group of people that haven't gotten to the point where they realize we're in a total movie at this point.
Yeah, and it's hard to explain. I kind of got a bit not frustrated, but I kind of felt like I was repeating myself over and over again,
You
and I
don't need
felt
to
like
explain it.
it
Just
was
say,
just
oh,
pointless.
okay.
Yeah, and I just kind of like, yeah, exactly that. I just came to the point of saying, "Do you know what? Maybe that's where they need to be right now." Like I did explain the whole video game thing, the console, the player, the game, the person behind, like the person holding the console, the person, then the character in the game, and that we are both, and we are a reflection of the character playing the game. But
Mhm.
obviously, when we're playing the game, it feels real. And but we have the power to control what happens in the game, and that's the funniest thing. Like we don't need to be experiencing what we're experiencing if we don't enjoy it. And obviously, not everything is in his control because, like you said, I don't feel like I consciously sat here and called in a flood in my house, like, but what I did do is asked for a better house and asked to move. So universe went, there you go, so there is ways that things happen sometimes in that we don't expect, but we're always brought what we need. And if we surrender and are open to the transitions in whatever way we need to, sometimes a bit of catastrophe is involved on the way, but it always leads to newness and, expansion. And I'm just so, like I said, always going into the gratitude for the support I received after that, which then enabled me to move and to have the whole, that chapter coming to an end. So there is so much beautiful things that can come out of
Mhm.
conflict and turmoil. So I think that's the best thing to maintain perspective on is if it isn't what the reality you want to be living in right now, maybe your higher self is working on removing the obstacles so that you can live the reality that you want to.
Yeah. And we've been in limbo for a long time at
Mm.
this point. A lot of us that are very aware. So just making sure that you are taking care of yourself during that, but also starting to feel like you're living, being grateful for all the goodness that has come your way,
Yeah.
and starting to feel abundant in your body and concentrating on some of that every day is going to allow that abundance to come in because it's there, it's waiting. And all we have to do is vibrate up to it.
100%.
And I think that is probably the hardest concept
It
so
is,
far.
because I understood that concept, but then physically doing it is a different thing. Like, I understood a lot of the things that I still know now, but doing it is different. Like, I don't know why it was so hard for me, but I think I really had to work through my inner child and my self-worth a
Mhm.
lot, my abundance. But, like,
Yeah.
I can say the one thing I used throughout everything was gratitude, as I'll always reference back to. And lately, there's this woman on TikTok. A lot of people have seen her. She's made a song, and she's got terminal ill cancer, and she's leaving all the credits to her song to her son. And I was sat looking at her videos last night, and I just had this overwhelming gratitude for life, for health. Like, I'd been in a position, not terminally ill, but where I couldn't use my body and where I'm not physically well. So I've experienced some form of limitations, and I know what it feels like when you come out of that and you think, wow, I'm so grateful to be able to drink and be able to walk and breathe and not be
Mhm.
in pain. But then to actually have the perspective of, I'm just so grateful to wake up this morning and to have the opportunity of life. Like, we have so much to be grateful for. And that's why, when I'm not feeling joyful and happy, I do try and step into that place of, you're alive, you're breathing, you've got a roof over your head, you've got food, you've got a beautiful family. And that's enough to at least bring some joy and satisfaction in the heart. And then you work on bringing the reminders of all the beautiful things and all the things that we should be like grateful for in abundance, and that brings more abundance. That's what I've realized is, if we focus on the things that we think we don't have, that only creates more of that, more lack.
Oh yeah.
So if we step out of that, which, like I said, and a lot of us know this, but it's really truly putting it into practice. That fear of not paying the bill, breathe through it, don't ignore it, don't push it away, actually sit with the fear. All right, you don't pay the bill, what happens then? And then sit with
Mhm.
it, so actually go through it, because that then will allow you to not be in fear next time a bill comes through the door, next time the phone rings, or next time that, and you can actually look it head on in the face and sit with it, because when you've sat with it, you're no longer scared of it, and then it don't have any power over you anymore.
Right. Exactly. You don't want to have anything that has power over you to like make you go into fight or flight. So
Exactly.
think about it, sit with it. Yeah, exactly what Anya said. And find the thing that is triggering that to happen
Yeah.
too. Like, why are you so worried about, I don't know, driving in the nighttime? Or why are you so worried about that bill? Why do you not believe that you are worthy of abundance? Like,
That was a
what
big.
inside of your subconscious is triggering that?
Mhm. And do you know what I realized? There was multiple answers. Like, I kept looking for
Mhm.
a block, that one block. I kept looking for it all the time.
Oh
Not
yeah,
really.
sometimes there's 10. Doesn't
There
matter.
was like 500, and every time I kept trying to work through it, like, is this the one? Is this the one? Is this the one? And I just got to the point where I was like, I'm just gonna keep going, and then hopefully one day we'll get there. And that was my mentality towards the end, because it did feel, I'm not gonna lie, like a never-ending journey. And it was ironic, because I'd teach people what I knew, and then they'd be cracking the code, and I'd be like, okay, so I'm clearly not doing something right, because I knew this. Is what I'm saying. You can know all the knowledge in the world, but without applying it into practice and without actually going deep within to what that
Yeah.
means to you. Mine was fear, mine was worth, mine was deserving, mine was old outdated programs, mine was ancestral trauma, mine was what I'd observed and witnessed in my upbringing to create poverty consciousness in the mind. There's so many layers to it, so many layers to it, and so I had to work through each and every layer to then, even like now, I'm not abundantly overflowing, but at least I created the opening, the doorway to open to receive. And that's all we need to do, is create the doorway to be open to receive, and then that can create more flowing continuously.
Mhm.
And to get out of that fight or flight stage in money and that panic, then it creates an opening and a nicer relationship with money, so that everything can be more flowing. And then again, it's connected with the sacral chakra and with the creativity in there and the womb trauma. Like, there's so many layers to it. So if you are working through that specific one, me and Honey both do offerings on that, and I'm going to create another, either an ebook and a course with cracking the code to abundance, because it's something I have really worked on for years,
Mhm.
and I like to put together the different things that I've had to work through and had to overcome, and the ways that I did that, so that maybe it can condense it and make that journey a little bit easier for someone else.
Yeah, totally. And I have an abundance activation on YouTube that's free.
Yeah.
So,
So
I
definitely.
mean, go do that a few times and see how you feel. I don't know. I
Look,
did that activation the other day and somebody sent me an email and they didn't get a chance to be there. They had to work. So they watched it later and she said she just cried and cried through the whole thing. So that's a release, you know? Don't be afraid to scream or cry or anything. As long as you're not hurting someone else while you're doing it,
getting
and
out.
you're saying, you know, take this energy and transmute it into something else, then you need to release it. You need to get it out because we don't need to carry these burdens. That's what blocks the good stuff from coming in. It's like it's like you have a room with finite amount of room in it, you know, square footage. And if it's packed full of trauma, you're not going to get the good stuff in there. So you have to let go of the trauma.
Exactly. Literally. That's the only way I can put it. When people are all focused on getting the money and creating the money, I understand that. I totally get that. But that's not the answer. Like, that's not going to get you anywhere, in my opinion. It's really surface level. Like you say, it's so much deeper than that. And it's about addressing the roots and the programs and everything deep down.
Mhm.
And 100% all the way throughout this process in the past couple of years. So, she's the best person to go to. So I would definitely check out that free workshop that Honey's got, because sometimes you need that external perspective, you need that reflection from the outside, and sometimes you have to allow the knowledge that to integrate into action into your own body. Like I said, just because you know it don't mean you're doing it, and don't mean that it's time to be doing it. I had to work through a lot with my inner child, all the time with the inner child and the inner teen, because she was a bit stubborn too. She was the one that's kind of like, I'll just do it myself, I don't need no help.
Yeah.
So you have to go through the different layers of self to be open and willing to be vulnerable and blah blah blah. So
Mhm.
much, so much. Yeah, don't be panicking if you are stuck there. There will be a way out, and there is a way out.
There is a
Definitely
way
is.
out. Yeah.
It is. There's abundance for the abundance that you cannot believe exists out there. Even I, I'm still limited to that perspective. Like, when you come from a place or an environment or a upbringing where there's not a lot, I get why in your mind you believe, oh, there's enough for other people but not for me. I had that same belief, but you would not believe the potential of abundance that is out there for us to tap into. It's just simply
Mhm.
about being able to allow ourselves to be open to receiving it.
Yeah. It's so it's so important right now to let go. You come in as a little baby
Yep.
and you want to be as caring to yourself as you would be to the little baby that showed up here. And that little baby deserves whatever it needs,
Hmm.
whatever it needs. So I mean, money was a way to create slavery. So that it's going to phase itself out. But before it does, people are going to be abundant and they're going to be joyful with money. They're going to use it for play. And then once that goes, like we don't need it anymore, they're just going to manifest the things that they need.
100%.
Yeah, it'll just be very easy because really you can create anything if you know how and you
Yeah.
believe you can.
It's all a frequency, vibrational energy. It's just
Mm.
about into that frequency. But like we said, sometimes it is easier said than done than putting it into action. But try it with small things. Try it with, less physical things. Try it with you going somewhere with certain people. Try creating the vibration that you want to feel while you're there, because you're in control of energy, you're in control of vibration. Try setting a tone, a frequency vibration of you want everyone to be laughing, you want everyone to be enjoying in fun and happy vibrations. So set that frequency out, visualize that energy, visualize everybody laughing, create that reality and put that out there so that you can start to experience it. Start off with things like that and then start bringing in small things like a parking spot, like, things that
Yeah.
you can physically bring into reality, and then start with small abundance things, and refunds coming back in, and rebates coming back into your. I once had when I was manifesting, I really needed 700 quid, and I'd left uni about 6 months before, and I'd applied for a bursary about 8 months before, and I got declined. I really was manifesting this 700 quid, and then that night at midnight I got a university bursary thing that I'd applied and got declined for 8 months before. It just came into my bank, and I was like, am I gonna get in trouble? But when I rang them up, it was all legit. They just were like, oh yeah, it was on the system that you'd applied, so you automatically got it, even though I'd left uni. Found it hilarious. So the specific amount, £709, that I needed came in the bank that night. It really is there for us to access it if we're just open to knowing that we are able to receive it, and
Yeah.
it's usually when we're in and we think, well, we need it, and we know we'll get it because we know we have to pay it, that it then shows up. But if we kind of take the desperation out of it and just have that same mindset that we know we'll have it, if when we need it, it's going to come, don't matter, no matter what. If we know we're always provided for, then we'll always kind of be looked after and provided for.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, well, this was lovely. And we're going to try and do a dream thing. So I'm going to put my email below. If you have a dream that you want to have interpreted, and I can't promise that all of them will be, please email me there. Because I want to start doing things that are going to be really good for everybody, so that we can start to understand how to deal with our own stuff. Like, that is what my purpose is this year, is to teach people how to heal themselves and do their own work from the inside out. It's really important right now. So
I think that's really good for you though, because you always are the one that looks after everyone and fixes everybody. So I think now it's a good transition for you to be going through in terms of showing your tools for other people so that they can do that magic themselves, and there's less of a burden on you to have to do it for them.
yeah, and it's not sovereign for me to continue to do all the healing. It's important that I teach how to do the healing for yourself. So that's been a big transition, and I love it. Really, like.
No, I'm really glad. I think it's good. It gives you more time for you though too. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, it will.
It will.
Okay, darling. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I will
Thank
see everyone.
you. Bye, everybody.